Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of TruthBusters. I apologize, my mic was off. I'm usually producing, not tonight. However, if you notice, Q is to the left of me now because he is the host of this show for sure. He is the man of the hour, the man with the power. He looks funky with them glasses on, but I'm getting used to it now. Q, are you wearing an iWatch?
No, Fitbit.
I got really excited there. Welcome to the show, my man. How are you?
I'm great. And yes, I'm going to invest in an Apple Watch very shortly.
Good.
We just got the new 11s last week and 2 weeks ago. Getting used to them. But yeah, I'm going to go with an Apple Watch instead of the Fitbit. I mean, according to the internet, I'm worth $48 million. So why not spend a little bit on an Apple Watch?
Right. I agree.
Well, I read one today. Apparently, I lost the money because I was only worth $9 million. I've called every bank in North Carolina. Nobody's got my millions. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I don't know how. I mean, I've seen the proof.
Well, according to my celebrityhood, that's where I made all my money. Look,
whatever works.
I'm going to raise the money. I'm going to do it through GoFundMe. And I'm going to raise the money to write a book called A View of the Top, because I was at the top with the top guys during the Attitude Era. I was there for 4 years, plus my life on the road, on the independent life, which pretty much I'm known for. And guys throw out words like legend and icon, and I'm not big on titles. Let's just say I spent 35 years out there. So the stories that I've got from guys that I traveled with, from the Iron Sheik for 2.5 years to the late Public Enemy, all the way on down. Guys that I knew that were at the top, guys that went to the top, guys that are on their way down. It's an interesting ladder. The guys you meet coming up, sometimes they're going down while you're going up. And sometimes you're going down while they go up. So your paths cross, but it's a pretty interesting thing. So I think I need to set aside some time, get the funding to get the book published, write it, and publish it myself, which takes money, because I did send my book to a publisher once, and they came back and said, it's too raw and gritty. And I'm like, that defines my life on the road. What are you talking about? Of course it was raw and gritty. It was a grind. It was a grind. So he kicked it back. I tried it. I sent it to a subsidiary of Random House that does books, that go online, go to Amazon, all that stuff. So if I could finance the book, I could write the book and get it into publication, get it into people's hands. The problem is it takes a chunk of money, and despite what the internet says, I am not a millionaire. So I think that's the next endeavor. You can ghostwrite it with me, because you're good with words too. So we'll put out a book. We'll put out my 35 years, and or we'll title it something cool, man. It'll be the life and times of the indie world, because the indie wrestling is a subculture. Wrestling in itself is actually defined as a subculture, but indie wrestling is truly a subculture. But I don't want to get too far off the path. It's not a wrestling show. It's our show, our 6-part series on ancient civilizations and things that really, if you look at it honestly and openly, you're going to find that these places had great technology when they were built. And the technology didn't exist on Earth, because when you always search these ancient ruins of these cities, civilizations, places with pyramids, whatever, you always find one thing in common. You find these beautiful giant structures, and you find skeletons of people that sometimes they were a tomb and they were buried in, and skeletons of people around the area of whatever megalithic building it is, but they never find any tools. So, and they would definitely find it, because if you're going to cut granite, or you're going to cut some kind of heavy stone like basalt, you're going to need to have tools to do it. So it's kind of interesting they never find the tools. I think recently they found the head of an axe that was forged metal, so they could date the metal pretty easy. And the way they dated the metal is by the layers of oxidization on it. And it came back that it was 160,000 years old. Well, it's impossible, because man hasn't walked upright for that long. Or have we?
It's funny, though. before you really get rolling with this, I got to tell you this. This is very interesting to me. One, I'm always the third wheel. I'm the producer of the show, so I often will sit here and I'm listening to the shows, as you know, and so I never really get to sit here on the show, and I don't get to say a whole lot, but I do have to say some breaking news, though, right out of the chute, man. I'm not cutting you off. I know the topic of the night is pyramids, but I gotta say something. We got merch now. Okay?
Yeah.
We got merch. We got all the merch you need. You need a bedspread? We got you covered. Need a shower curtain? We got you covered. We can even put Q's face on it. Boy, that's awkward.
I don't want to do that, but we have Triple T Radio, we have TruthBusters, and we have Cueball's Corner Pocket, and we have, like Nick said, everything from shot glasses and coffee mugs to bedspreads to shower curtains with our cool logo on it. So,
got an iPhone Q? Need a good iPhone case? I can get you one with our logo on it. And guys, pay attention. Because I'm going to be honest with you. You never know when we might have a little deal. You might get some money off. There could be promo codes. There's all sorts. Fly on over to TripleTRadio.com. Click the shop. Go to the merchandise link, whichever one you want to use. You won't be disappointed. You'll be loving every second of it. Hell, if you get a shirt, you want to send it to Q. He'll sign the damn thing and send it right back to you. Just saying.
Just include a self-addressed postage envelope. I'm not paying your post to send the shirt back. Sorry.
You cheap bastard.
If I find the $48 million, I will.
Hey, listen, I'm throwing this at you right now, though. Okay? Because Anthony just threw a question in. And since the topic tonight is pyramids.
Is that Anthony?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He wants to know what your thoughts are about the carvings on some of the sculptures. And if you have described that resemble flying machines or figures on helmets.
Yeah, here's my thinking with that. It's going to take a second. Now, Anthony, let's say that it's 3,000 years ago. Okay? Obviously, there's no social media. Obviously, there's no internet.
Young.
There are small villages of people and big villages of people and nothing in between. And so they're sitting there one day, and their whole entire job is to feed their family and their community. That's the old hunter and gatherer society. And that's what it was. They hunted every day. You can't put meat in the freezer 3,000 years ago. They didn't know a lot about curing meat, I'm sure. So what they killed, they ate. Sometimes they feasted, sometimes they starved. They would gather nuts and berries. But that was a full-time job. So let's say that one day Anthony and I are going out to hunt to feed our wives and our 4 kids. And we're out there in the woods and we haven't got any food yet. I look at him and I say, you know what? How with this hunting? Let's go build a pyramid. Let's just stop and go build a giant monument for no particular
something
reason.
That the world will talk about forevermore.
but our kids are going to be a little bit hungry. So my theory with that is they carved what they saw, but they had no frame of reference. If a spaceship landed in your yard now, you would know it was a spaceship. You would know it aliens. Back then, everybody believed that God was in the sky, and you'll hear them use terminology like sky gods because everybody looked up. That's got to be heaven. It's beautiful. It's blue. Sky gods. Now let's just say we've seen all sorts of reports on UFOs. A lot of them are triangular. They see the one that lights over Phoenix, 1997. That was a giant triangular flying object that everybody, including the mayor, saw. The mayor denied it until he was out of office, then he admitted it. But a famous doctor actually quit her job as a doctor, and she instead went into writing a book about this and trying to find out what this was. So let's say that triangular object, for some reason, Even though it flies like this, it lands like this on the bottom, and it's in the shape of a triangle. Now, it came out of the sky. Back then, they assumed it was gods. No, I want you to change the word gods to alien, and life form, biological entity, not from this planet, whatever. And instead of chariots or instead of other descriptions, the feathered serpent, your only frame of reference is something you've already seen on Earth. But your viewpoint is very limited because you hunt every day and try to feed your family and live in a hut, and you're worried about three things: fresh water, number one; shelter, number two; and food sources, number three. Those are your only three worries in the whole world.
You telling me there wasn't a Sobeys up the road back then?
No, there wasn't a Sobeys, there wasn't a Wawa, there wasn't a Sheetz, there wasn't a 7-Eleven.
Just checking.
Was,
I was just checking. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there wasn't. They found no ruins of that. We've uncovered a 3,000-year-old 7-Eleven store.
Yeah.
And the Slurpee machine still works.
And Q's great-great-great-grandfather owned it.
You're right.
The late great.
So they had a very limited frame of reference. So when you see something, let's say you lived where there was deer and you had fire and there was animals, you would take, first off, you consider the gods came down. If you're in Rome, a fiery chariot. Some describe it as a boat from the sky that the gods came down in. So your frame of reference is so limited in that society 3,000 years ago. Your vocabulary is limited. It's like
you're right.
Hunt, kill, eat, food. Pretty much that was it. So I think they described it to the best of their ability to address what looks like astronauts with some kind of helmet. Anthony, I don't know if you noticed, but almost all civilizations have that. And they have that person carrying something that looks like a purse in their hand, which I would suspect would be the atmosphere that they can breathe. Like somebody carries a small oxygen machine that converts the air outside, gets rid of the carbon dioxide, and feeds them oxygen. They carry that now. It's small like a purse. So let's say that it was in a suit, it was a helmet, and that was their life support system. I firmly believe that these people didn't sit there and go, okay, so we killed the deer, Nick. We can eat today. Let's think about an astronaut, because that's what it looks like. Anthony, you're exactly spot on. Looks like an astronaut in a suit. The carvings that you see around the world in the drawings in the caves, they draw this circle, spiral, almost like a hypnotherapy circle. Starts in the middle, gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I believe that's a vortice. I believe that's a vortex. It's going to go into one of the shows that we're doing about 2 shows from now, the Alaska Triangle. Since 1988, over 16,000 people have completely disappeared in this Alaskan Triangle. I mean, they didn't find a glove, a shoelace, a remnant, nothing. So we're going to. So yes, I do believe that is a drawing of what they saw. I don't think, Anthony, if we were sitting there and we killed a deer for the day and we're sitting around the fire and we're gorging ourselves, I don't think we're going to say, let's make up something to fool people a couple thousand years from now and draw an astronaut, because they had no frame of reference for an astronaut. So long story longer, I believe that that's what they saw. So I think they carved what they saw. And I think, obviously, that was a biological entity for a different world. A little over 2 years ago, an English hacker hacked into the Pentagon system. And I can't recall his name right now, but I've seen him 3 or 4 times on shows. He hacked into the Pentagon, the most secure server in the entire world. And he pulled up a list of military officers. There were terrestrial and non-terrestrial officers. And there was an entire list of what was called non-terrestrial officers. So that means they're not officers that serve on Earth. They serve in space. It was a long list, too. It was 100 people long. So these non-terrestrial officers don't serve on Earth. Where do they serve? Do we have a base on the moon? Do we have a base on Mars? We must have something somewhere in order for this. And, the guy is not even in prison because he basically made a deal not to talk, a limited amount of stuff. So, it's kind of unique. And I think it's very interesting that they would have a list of non-terrestrial officers.
Absolutely.
So not only are we in space, but I think we've been in space for a lot longer. You figure this. In 1955, Werner von Braun, who was the head of NASA. Now, Werner von Braun was a German scientist who was fascinated with rockets. He actually invented the V2 rocket, which was the first surface-to-air long-distance rocket they could have shot from Germany into the United States with a nuclear warhead at that point if they wanted to. So he invented the V2. He was very resistant, didn't want to join Hitler's SS, fought to the very end. It became down a matter of life and death. If he didn't join, they were going to kill him. So there was a project that the U.S. went into, and they took the top 50 German scientists because Germany was over 20 years ahead of what we were doing as far as rockets and space back then. So Werner von Braun was so smart that he became the head scientist at NASA in the 50s. And he was on a show called what was it called? Walt Disney Presents, which is the show I watched in the late 60s as a kid. And Walt Disney, the founder of Disney World, had him on the show. And he said he believed within 20 years we would have a rocket that went to the moon. 14 years later, 1969, we had a rocket that went to the moon. So we've had space shuttles that go up in space. They don't go to the moon. We've landed 6 people total on the moon. Or 6 missions. So are you telling me that in 1969 we were able to get a man to the moon when technology was limited? The computer in your iPhone is more powerful than the 4 floors of computers wall to wall that they had at NASA to get them to space and back. You got more technology in your iPhone or your Android. So we get to the moon in 1969. Now I want you to think about this. In 1910, people were still using a horse and buggy. By 1930, before 28 for the Great Depression, 1 out of 3 families had a car instead of a horse and buggy. 1945, we created nuclear weapons. And 24 years later, we land a guy on the moon. Now, 69 to 79 to 89 to 99 to 09 to 19. 51 years since we landed on the moon. Are you telling me we gave up? We didn't develop any more technology? And I'm just not Anthony. I'm saying this to the general public. Are you telling me we landed guys on the moon? All of a sudden, we stopped talking about going to the moon. It's not a big deal anymore. Almost erased from history is the fact that we went there. And by erased, I mean forgotten, because generations have come and went since then. But I can tell you this. If we got to the moon in 1969 and we gave up, I'd be highly surprised. I believe we've got sophisticated enough flying machines that we could go to the moon anytime we want. We can go to Mars anytime we want, although it does take months to get to Mars. But we don't know about the technology the government has. I believe that they've had extraterrestrial aircraft, and they've been, they go in, they re-engineer, reverse engineer that machine to figure out how it works, and all of a sudden they're not talking about it. We're not having people watch a space launch or a shuttle launch down in Florida or Texas. We're all of a sudden not interested in going into outer space. And why did have several people in high positions and several scientists say the next war was going to be in outer space? And why did Trump decide that we need a space force? There's a reason for this. I believe there's enough biological entities out there in this universe that we now know has 1 billion planets, an equal amount of suns. They have thousands of them in the Goldilocks zones, which means they have atmosphere and they have enough sunlight to live and grow plants. You're telling me in all that there's no other intelligent life? I say absolutely not. There's plenty of it. And I believe that it comes here. But really, I want you to look at a civilization that maybe started 100,000 years before Earth did. Where are we going to be at technology-wise in 100,000 years, or even 10 years, 10,000 years, or even 1,000 years? The technology is going to be amazing. It's been amazing just in the last 30 years, 25 years. I mean, heck, in the 80s, a VCR cost you $300 or $400. Now you can buy a DVD player for $30 because the technology's been perfected. It can be mass produced. So I believe that NASA has continued missions. I believe that they've habitat other planets and or the moon, and I believe that that's something that they don't want to tell us. You know, if you look at some interesting things, I want you all guys, everybody's watching, to write this down. If you don't know what it is, it's called the Mandela effect. Two things: Mandela, like Nelson Mandela effect. And then I want you to write down the Hadron, Haydren, I believe, collider. And I want you to look at those two things. And I want you to think back. You can't find the footage, it's been erased. But in the 80s, there was a civil war breaking out in China with protesters. Stood in Tiananmen Square. I watched it. It played over and over again. He was in Tiananmen Square, and he stood in front of a tank, and he wouldn't move. And I saw the tank run him over. Yet now they played the video, and the man moves, the tank stops, the man eventually moves, but he's never run over. This is called the Mandela effect. History's been effectively changed. If you look up the Hadron Collider, which is basically a machine that we've created to be able to warp time, create wormholes, and travel through time through. They're not going to tell you that, but they've been doing it for 20 years. They got to figure it out. They actually go back and either change history, or they're very good editors. And they've taken all the original footage down and put up new footage. Have you ever heard of the Bernstein Bears?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Lots
When
times.
my oldest daughter watched the Bernstein Bears, it was spelled Bernstine. If you go look it up now, it's spelled Berstain, Bernstein, instead of Bernstein Bears. It's all been changed. The footage has either been changed, or if you look up the Hadron Collider, you'll probably believe what I believe, that it's extremely possible to go back into time. I think they've developed that technology. We've all seen if you haven't seen the pictures on the internet or YouTube, where you'll see the Hindenburg blow up in New Jersey and catch on fire, you'll see people running. If you look up time travel and you look up the explosion of it, you'll see a person in there that looks like they're dressed from our time and era.
Yeah.
Who's in footage. If you look at the lady walking down the street, clearly on a cell phone, she's dressed in their time and era, but she's walking down the street. It looks like she's got a white cased iPhone up to her head and she's talking away. Now, unless she was talking into a garage door opener, I don't know what she had up to her head that she was talking into, but I can tell you, sure as hell looks like a cell phone.
No, it did, yeah.
And if I go back to time, I'm dressed up like that next time, and I'm going to have them do one minor thing that changes the entire outcome of things. Just this much. Because if you do it too much, if you don't crash the Hindenburg doesn't explode and crash, you change that footage, everybody's going to notice that footage will change. But when you do subtle changes, the Mandela effect, you change the spelling of the Bernstein Bears, which it was, now it's Bernstein Bears. If you look at things like that, and you look at the Hadron Collider, and you look at the Mandela effect, and you look for things that are associated with the Mandela effect, you'll see what I'm talking about. And y'all might think at this point I'm a raving lunatic. Our government has theory for people. Keep them in the dark and keep growing bulk on top of them. And that's how you grow mushrooms. That was a mushroom farm in Pennsylvania. It was a huge dark barn. I mean, it was pitch dark in there. You walked in, it was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And the guy clicked on the lights, and there must have been dirt on each side in a frame about 6 inches deep. There must have been 500,000 button mushrooms in there. And I said, how do you grow these? He said, we keep them in the dark and we throw cow manure on it. Well, I realized then that's what the government does with America. They keep us in the dark and they keep throwing this BS they feed the press and this BS that they say. We truly never know what's going on. What's going on at the Pentagon right now? What's going on now the largest office building in the world with all the top officials that have the security clearances that are as high as you can get, and they're sitting in there. What are they doing for a job? You don't think there's a wing in there that's dedicated to figuring out what's flying in the air? Because too many people have seen UFOs. Too many people have abduction theories. They're in regression hypnotherapy where they can't lie. Too much of this is going on for us to turn our heads to it. We have to look at it, and we have to tell our government we want answers. You know, Harry Truman said one time that the people and he's the president that disappeared for 24 complete hours and nobody knew where he was. But there was also an Air Force base that was busy, had over 1,000 flights a day. They canceled all flights for 3 days before he went missing and 3 days after. And he showed up at a church 24 hours later. He left Nevada, where he was in Las Vegas. He disappeared without a security detail, without anybody, 1954. And he disappeared for 24 hours. They didn't dare tell the public at the time because they thought he'd been kidnapped and there was going to be a ransom. And 6 hours later, he shows up at a church service in California. Said he was just driving around, wanted to get away, yet he's the president of the United States and he's recognized everywhere. And this Air Force base just happened to be right in the path in which he was driving.
Wow.
And it's ironic that they canceled the flights for 3 days before, 3 days after. They cleared as many personnel as they could with what's called it's a military term for leave. They gave them all, like shore leave, they called it in the Navy. They gave them shore leave. They sent them all home, and they only kept the guys with the highest credentials and security clearance in the world there. And something happened during that 24 hours that nobody can explain. People that have worked in that administration, you know, his successor, Dwight D. Eisenhower, told his granddaughter, who's still alive, that if the people knew what was going on with the American government's relationship with extraterrestrials, that the people would either go mental because they couldn't handle it, or there would be a revolution. And that's his granddaughter telling on TV that he told her that. And he's the one that succeeded Eisenhower. So, you know, something went on that they didn't want us to ever find out. Freedom of Information Act, you know, the U.S. government, people were hitting them with Freedom of Information Act and for years. So what the government did, we all heard government contractors, right? It's a government contractor. Robert Bigelow, the aerospace guy, is a classic example. The federal government owned a ranch called Skinwalker Ranch. Robert Bigelow buys it, has it for 20 years, sells it back to the U.S. government. The U.S. government buys his aerospace jet engines and planes all the time, commonly, but he had it for 20 years. He brought entire teams in there. Armed security blocked it off. Get shot if you enter. And was there for 20 years with top scientists doing experiments on that ranch. Nobody was allowed in or out. And he sold it back to the federal, or sold it to a private guy, a guy out of Nevada. He actually does a show called Skinwalker Ranch now. or Utah. I'm sorry, out of Utah. Brandon, I don't think of his name. There's so many names I've been studying. So anyway, he sells it. Now, keep in mind, government contractors are not obligated by the United States government's Freedom of Information Act. That's why they hire contractors to do their dirty work. You cannot requisition the records, what they did, any information. They're private entities. They don't fall under the Freedom of Information Act. The FBI and the U.S. government decided they would give the people what they want 2 years ago. So they released over 1 million documents from the federal government all at once. Names were redacted, and some stuff was redacted, and it goes all the way back to Project Blue Book. It dumped all that stuff out on the internet for people to access. Now let me ask you a question. In that million pages, there's probably some very pertinent information relating to some type of contact with UFOs or some type of government verified sightings of UFOs, things like that. How do you want somebody to not find that, but you still want to honor the Freedom of Information Act? You release 1 million pages at once, and buried in that somewhere is the truth. Whether anybody will get through that 1 million pages and find the truth is anybody's guess. I suspect that they won't for a long time, because it takes a long time to read that. And when information is redacted, you almost got to make assumptions. You can't take somebody legally to court based on an assumption. You can't get a conviction based on an assumption. It doesn't matter if you know Joe Blow killed Cindy Smith. If you can't prove it in a court of law, it might as well not happen. And it's the same thing with this. The redacted information can only be an assumption. Assumptions are never going to be taken serious by anybody because they are assumptions. So, not to get too far off the track, but the government knows what's going on. They're never going to tell us. I'll probably be assassinated after the show.
Okay, here's the deal. I didn't want to cut you off at all there. That was a long run. I got to pay some bills. We're coming back. We're talking all things TruthBusters, the pyramids. Anthony had a question. We're going to get to that. So sit tight. Don't go anywhere. And we're back. Because that's what we do. We go to break, we come back. You know, it's kind of our thing. You know, our thing of the thing. We go to break. We show all these great little commercials and the merchandise over at TripleTRadio.com. Check it out, guys. Best merchandise in town. Get it all. I promise we got everything. Q, here's the question this gentleman had for you. All right. Is there any sculpture or place that you would like to visit or view in person?
Yes. I would like to go to Göbekli Tepe, which is the oldest civilization that's been dated far back as at least 70,000 years. And even though it took them 13 years to uncover than five, I would like to go there and see the process of how actually meticulously they have to uncover hidden artifacts looking for everything. So Göbekli Tepe's on my list, and you know, I would love to go to Puma Punka and see that. I mean, that's an amazing civilization. Those would probably be my top two. Probably not the average person's top two. I mean, pyramids. I'd like to see the pyramids, but it's not on my bucket list. Um, but some of the other ones are. Good question. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it.
And I just quickly want to say, really quick, guys. I just noticed someone said they love the merchandise. Look it's top quality. It's everything you want. Like I said, we got everything from shot glasses to coffee cups. Everything from T-shirts to hoodies, pullovers, everything. I mean, it's awesome. It is great stuff. I wouldn't tell you that if it wasn't. I can say that much. Q. Just a quick side note, man. The Fan and the Booker. The commercial just aired for that. That's upcoming. What do you think?
Oh, I'm excited about it. Look, you've got a guy who's a pretty skilled booker. The promotion's pretty successful on the independent level, and you've got a lifelong fan of pro wrestling. You couldn't get two more opposite points of view, you know. So for me, it's exciting to welcome these guys aboard. I mean, the Booker man and the Fan. I think it's going to be a fantastic show. I think it won't be long before we get their merchandise up there with ours. And I'm excited about it. I spent a lot of time talking to the Booker man and kind of feeling him out, see if he knows what he's talking about. And he does. So I think it's going to be two polar opposites. It'd be like, you know, putting a fan that's watched wrestling for 35 years with me or for their whole life with me. Oh, wait, we got you. But anyway, it's a unique perspective for sure. I think it's going to be a great addition to Triple T Radio.
Well, you know, it's funny because his beautiful wife was actually a guest on the exclusive a while back. Her name was May. She was awesome. She's a referee. And I ended up doing one with Trevor first. And to be honest, we did the show. It was great. I loved it. But, you know, usually we do the show and that's pretty much it. Like, you know, and then he threw out like a week ago about, you know, hey, what do you think? You know, and shut me down if you think I'm crazy. And I thought, holy crap, no. Let me talk to Q and, you know, let's get the ball rolling. I think we got something here. So, you know, Monday nights are going to change. I mean, it's going to be awesome. And to pick AEW, I mean, the newest wrestling company out there, and probably the one that needs the most reviews right now because everyone else is familiar with all the other products. I will be watching because I don't watch AEW. So this is my opportunity. Maybe they say something that I'm like, oh, whoa, wait. Holy jumpins. I got to go get the remote. I got to PVR this. So, you know, this is an opportunity for those who are not watching AEW to tune in, check it out. So, guys, one more time, the Fan, the Booker, the Fan. It's going to be an amazing show. It's coming to you Monday nights.
Yep, I'm going to.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to chat with Trevor, hopefully on this show where I'm able to, you know, maybe we can have him on to give us the lowdown on our show, the mothership. Turnbuckles, Trunks, and Titles.
Right, exactly. So, gotta get him on there, introduce the people to him. I think it's going to be great. You know, I was just looking through. First off, the guy Brandon Fugel is the guy who owns Skinwalker Ranch now, and he's probably a billionaire out of Utah. Several businesses and holdings. Very intelligent, decent human being, and he's got people on the ranch doing some pretty serious investigations and stuff. If you all haven't watched The Legend of Skinwalker Ranch, it's a new show. You can get it on demand. Go and watch this last season. It's about 8 episodes. It's very interesting what they see and catch on video. I will tell you this. They do catch an alien spacecraft that looks like your atypical flying saucer on video, just as a cow suddenly, a healthy cow that morning, suddenly falls down, gets immediate pneumonia, suffocates in its own fluid as the ship is over top of it, and the other herd of cows went as far into the corner of this 4 square mile pasture as they could to get away from it. And I think that what we would have had is the atypical cow mutilation. I think the fact that they were caught on video was a surprise to them, but clearly you will see some type of non-earthly craft over the top of the bike. Say non-earthly, it moved a half a mile in the blink of an eye from left to right. We have nothing that we know of that can do that. So it was not from this world, as far as we know. The Air Force and the Army was contacted to see if they had any flights or test aircraft in the area that day. They did not. And this clearly is some type of alien craft that is high in the sky, but affecting this cow and causing this cow to go down. And that cow was checked that morning, and it was healthy. And when they took their Geiger counter and they took their electromagnetic field tester near the cow, the ratings on both were off the charts. They had to get out of the area.
Wow.
They put a fence around the cow to keep it from predators. They took the fence down a couple weeks later. Not one bird, not one possum, not one raccoon, not one scavenger has touched the carcass of this cow in over 4 months.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
They won't go near it. They won't touch it. It's that sixth sense that animals have. But it put off a extreme amount of radiation. One of the guys that was near the cow, his phone went crazy, his iPhone. It started going through his contacts and dialing numbers and flashing like crazy, like something you've never seen a phone do. Started dialing numbers, hanging up, dialing numbers, hanging up. Out of his phone book, people that he knew, and it was just went crazy. And that's when they decided to check the area for a high electromagnetic field, but also for radiation, and it was off the chart for both.
Wow.
So when you watch that footage of the season finale episode of Skinwalker Ranch, and don't cheat and watch that one first. You got to watch it in order because a whole bunch of crap happens leading up to this. But clearly, yes, they caught some type of alien craft. By movement, it could have been ours as the cow died. And I believe that it probably would have been.
Huh? I want you to send me over that link, the name of the show, and I'm going to watch it, and then I'm going to talk to you about it down the road, because that sounds like something I'd want to see. Yeah, for sure. Please.
Rhiannon, you should go ahead and put up what the actual name of the show is. Okay. I believe it's the Skinwalker Ranch, but she's going to put it up.
So yeah, I definitely want to see it. I'm going to go watch it.
It's overwhelming evidence that something is going on that we don't know about, just for the record. I'm also looking at the top government contractors, and number 122 on the list, let me make sure that's correct.
He's checking his sources.
This is the number of actions that the government transactions basically has had with them. Does anybody know who SpaceX is? Does anybody know what a Tesla is?
Yes.
Car? Does anybody know who Elon Musk is? He's the guy behind the Tesla. But also what he did is He wanted to get into private space travel, privatized space travel, so that you and me could go there, pay the money, go in a rocket into space, orbit the Earth 3 or 4 times, and come back down. He believes that he has the technology to be able to put regular people that can pay for it, and we're looking at a cost of a couple $1,000 is what his goal is, to be able to put most people in space if you want to go. So he wants to privatize the universe. Now, the only way we can think a millionaire is going to create a company like SpaceX and try to have private travel is pretty amazing. But I can tell you what the United States government has paid him. $1 billion. I'm sorry. How many zeros does that have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm assuming that's $1 billion. Wait, 1, 0, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. I don't know.
Love you, Q.
It's got 9 numbers. So what is that? $1 billion?
Yeah. Well, 6 is a million. So.
That's what the government has awarded him $1 billion in contracts.
Wait, no, 7.
No, he's not flying anything else into space but rockets. Supposedly with the guise of the fact that I'm going to privatize space and have people fly. Yet the government has contracted him for over $1 billion. So
wow.
If the government paid him $1 billion, here it is again. He's a government contractor. He's not obligated by the Freedom of Information Act that we have in America. He doesn't have to tell anybody jack about what he's doing. He can be building rockets and sending people to Mars, and he doesn't have to tell anybody. If the government did it, they would. The only way the government will ever get caught on this is if they have a oversight committee, which they'll never have because it's just not something they would have an oversight hearing on. Right. So he's continuing to get $1 billion from the government to build some kind of spaceship, jet engine, something. You know Rolls-Royce?
Yeah.
Rolls-Royce Holdings, the government has paid them, I guess since they've been dealing with them, 819 different transactions. They paid him over $1 million.
Wow.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's nuts.
And there's a lot of security people on this, like Vectrus Inc. and stuff like that. And those are guys that they're paying to go and do their dirty work because they're not responsible to ever tell anybody about it. So just look up the top 100 U.S. government contractors, guys, and go down that list and tell me you're not blown away about, number one, that there's even 100 government contractors, and number two, that they're paying literally billions of taxpayer dollars for whatever that they're doing that we'll never know and never have the right to know. There's a company called Patriot Team. They've had 1,010 interactions with the government, and they paid them over $696 billion or something over the course of the years. Jeez. I don't know. It's got a lot of numbers to it. I'm not good at that, or I'd find my $48 million.
Yeah, this is true.
They've definitely paid him. They definitely paid him hundreds of millions of dollars in their transactions with them. And Patriot Team, to me, I don't know. If I got a company called Patriot Team, I think I'm pretty much going to be a government contractor that takes out problems that threaten the U.S. from foreign factions. Just my thinking. It's kind of like a Navy SEAL team that's privatized. Pretty impressive. Y'all got to look that up, man. And it's just top 100 contractors of the U.S. federal government. It'll blow your mind. So, anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about, Nick.
Well, we got about 9 minutes. I got to take a quick break. I'm sorry, but I got to.
Pyramids, I promise. Pyramids, I promise.
Hang tight, guys. We're coming right back. and we're back here on TruthBusters. I am Nick. This is Q. Q, take it away.
So I want to give you guys a little bit about what we're going to talk about pyramids. Most of the ancient pyramids were built as tombs for pharaohs. I think everybody knows that. It was really just a mausoleum crypt above ground. You know, you go to the cemetery and they have the mausoleum where everybody's buried in a vault above ground, so you can go in there. But think about this. Over 130 pyramids have been discovered in Egypt alone. Now, going all the way back, the pyramid of Djoser, D-J-O-S-E-R, Djoser, was built in Saqqara around 4,650 years ago. That's 2,640 years BC, which is before Christ. So you think about this. They built this pyramid by hand 4,650 years ago in the middle of a desert. Now, one thing we don't know, the Earth did have a big crustal shift at one point. The tectonic plates moved. It changed a lot of places from a mild climate to a not so mild climate. It's probably what caused a lot of the glaciers to melt. So we don't know. For all we know, Egypt could have had massive lakes and rivers going, well, besides Nile, but it could have had massive lakes, freshwater bodies. It could have had any of that stuff there. We don't know what it was like 4,600 years ago. But to imagine 4,600 years ago, a bunch of people in the city were sitting around going, well, we got to walk to the lake to get water. I hope we catch some fish for dinner. And then we'll build a pyramid. Or it was just as dry and arid as it is now, with no food or water for miles. And they just decided that they would erect a massive pyramid for and giggles. Now, you gotta imagine, once again, we go back to 4,000 years ago. There's a village of people. The elders probably were the ones in charge. And the elders are sitting there going, all right, pretty hot in the desert. There's really not much food or water. So we gotta send out a team. They're gonna have to pack some rations. Might have to kill and eat their camels. We don't really have much to put in water because things like this were not invented yet. But here's an idea. Let's go over there where it's extremely dry. We got a river not too far away. It's extremely dry. There's no rocks there, so we got to cut the rocks over here. And we're going to have to drag them to where we want to build the pyramid. And let's go with the Great Pyramid of Giza. Let's go with the Sphinx. Let's go with the two other pyramids that are there. Let's just say for a second, we decided to build 3 pyramids. And those 3 pyramids points align directly with the constellation of Orion and actually point absolute directly at Orion's belt, the 3 stars in the sky. But we're going to do that. We're going to make sure when we start at the bottom, we get to the top, then it's directly pointing at those 3 stars. We start with a big one, then we'll build the small one.
What are the odds?
Well, we got the point points directly at Orion's belt. Come on.
I know.
I mean, look, let's have a candid conversation, listeners. And let's realize that people did not build these pyramids by themselves. They had technology from somewhere. I can only suspect it wasn't from underground in the earth, but it could have been. If it wasn't, it was either from the ocean or from the sky. And they built these pyramids. Now, I was told, I read where they said they built the Great Pyramid, the biggest one there, in 20 years. So I looked up the number of blocks, which is over 2 million. I looked up the fact that they were 5,000 pounds each. And I looked up the fact that they were quarried 18 miles from there. So I said, well, there ain't no trees to roll it on. Let me do this. Took a calculator, divided 20 times 365 into that number. And then I divided it by the hours in a day, the minutes in a day, and the seconds in a day. Let me tell you what happens if that pyramid was built in 20 years. Every 7 seconds for 20 years, a block was cut. It was trimmed down to perfect square perfection, rectangular perfection. It was hauled 18 miles and put in place every 7 seconds for 20 years. Cut, transported, put in place every 7 seconds in order to build that pyramid in 20 years. Somebody's wrong.
Someone is wrong.
Calculator. They didn't have calculators back then, but I got one now. My calculator says that. And I verified that fact by doing research on the internet, and I was exactly right. Every 7 seconds. Let's give them 11 seconds. It's a long time to cut it, take it 18 miles, and put it in place.
No, you're right. You're right.
So let's say that was built in 40 years. That's a block in place every 14 seconds. Let's say that it took 100 years to build it. That's cut, quarry, transport a block about every minute for 100 years to build the Great Pyramid. That didn't happen. There wasn't 3 generations of people building a pyramid. Because let me tell you what. If my dad told me my entire life was going to be spent building a pyramid until I was 7 years old and too old to work, and then I could sit in the lack of shade that's there, and I could build a pyramid till I died, yeah, I'm probably going to leave home at a very young age and just go somewhere else. Go down to the Nile River and live. I don't know, but I'm not going to be doing that. But wait. It's a tomb for the pharaoh. He's been dead for 120 years. Well, he doesn't need a tomb then. But you know, these pyramids are intricately built. There's chambers and there's travelways and stairs and all sorts of stuff in there. There's giant sarcophaguses that weigh thousands of pounds that somehow they carved up beautifully and put in there. So I don't know, guys. Look, next week I like to leave it up to you guys, but I'd like to ask you, do us a favor, run over to YouTube real quick. Go to Triple T Radio Live, find this TruthBusters episode. Please hit like and subscribe. And any comments that you want to leave, I want to ask you to leave them on YouTube this week. Anything you comment on, again, Triple T Radio, all one word, then a space and the word live. Find this week's episode of TruthBusters, and I want you to put your comments over there so we make sure we get them. And tell us what you want to see us cover. You know the format of the show. You know we're into conspiracies. Somebody said 911. If you want to see that stuff, skip on over to YouTube. It's pretty easy to find. Even I can find it. So you can find it. Go to this episode of TruthBusters, and please put on there what you'd like us to cover in the future. I also would like to ask you, just go through, look through the merchandise. And, you know, hey, look, you might have a friend with a birthday coming up. The TruthBusters logo is pretty cool. The Triple T one is pretty cool. Check it out. Look, times are hard. People aren't working. If you're one of those people that's been affected by COVID, I don't expect you to go over there and spend $40 on a t-shirt. You're probably better off spending 20 on a shot glass and filling it up. Just kidding.
Exactly. And remember, guys, me and Q, the same 2 guys you were looking at these ugly mugs for the last hour, we're coming back here Tuesday night. We talk all things professional wrestling. It's at 9 p.m. Atlantic, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll tell you, it's a show you don't want to miss. It's the mothership. It is Turnbuckles, Trunks, and Titles. And, of course, as always, Q, I thank you for allowing me to sit in here tonight. Hopefully John will be back next week. But this was nice. I appreciate it.
Yeah, brother. It was a good show. Thanks, everybody, for watching, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook or Instagram or wherever. Listen, appreciate you following us. Please jump over to YouTube, Triple T Radio, Space Live. Find this episode. Tell us what you want us to cover. Please hit like and please subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Appreciate it, everybody, for tuning in. Love y'all. We'll see you next week.